trying to get the erection. Hello and welcome to the 3T RPG podcast. This is a tabletop RPG podcast all about tabletop RPG podcasts.
Is it?
My name's Harrison Hunt, and with me is Jimmy Clunkles.
What's up, my Jubidees?
And, yeah, I mean, today we've got a show for you, innit? We've definitely got one of those.
Well, we built it by hand, but like with tweezers.
This is, handcrafted podcast for you here. None of that machine-built crap, no way.
Yeah, we recorded using like cups and string and...
And, yeah, you have to have, to be fair, you do have to have another cup and a string to be able to hear it, but, you know.
So if you're listening to it right now, well done.
Well done. You've achieved something in your meaningless life. Today we're going to be doing feedback. We've got some news as well, and then we're going to be talking about what we've been playing and what you've slain. And then the main subject is going to be how to keep players engaged. And then we're going to do your questions in the Electro Letters segment. Shall we engage?
We should, and I do.
The feedback side. The feedback side. Yes, bitch, the feedback side. It's the feedback section.
Yeah, we take your comments and read them out. Yeah, feedback, bitch.
So feedback. First of all, Ace, he's talking about we talked about last week the rope monkeys. Where
Oh, yeah.
The authors of Pirate Borg accidentally did a racist where they called one of the classes rope monkey, and it was a picture of a black bloke. Which was probably an accident. But anyway, Ace, his feedback, he says, didn't Spelljammer also do a similar racist thing with racist pirate monkeys? Why can't RPG publishers do pirates without being racist?
It's because they're all racist.
Yeah, pirates, by their very nature, they're bad people.
Yeah.
They're rapists, because they rape and pillage, right? And they're racists. So, to combine the two, they're rapesists. I don't know. I don't know why they can't do it without being racist. I mean, it's just.
I think it's just how they're always depicted, because they're always pretty. Because they don't wash, right? So they always look a bit grim and look a bit...
It's like that Ali G episode, you know, the one where he goes to a Welsh mining town and he's like, why is it only brothers in the mines? And
yeah, exactly.
It's all of the people in there with just coal dust on their face.
I think that's probably where some of it is, because obviously they are a bit grimy. They're going to be in the sun all the time, so they're leathery.
Pirates are very inclusive, fact. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's weird. I feel like... I think, wasn't the Spelljammer thing, if I'm not mistaken, there was a recent... It might be recent Spelljammer. I'm probably talking about my arse here, but the recent Spelljammer thing had a new race in it. It was a flying monkey man. And I think people then said it was racist when it wasn't. It was just a monkey flying man.
Well, that's the media for you today.
Exactly. I'm not sure if they actually... It might have been, but I remember seeing something about recent D&D where it was like they put a monkey man class in it and everyone was like, oh, this is racist. And it's like, to who? Chimps. But AC continues, he says, I think once again racists have ruined things for the rest of us. Rigging monkey referred to a person who climbs rigging quickly is a perfectly cool term, but then racists are all like, black people are monkeys, and then they ruin everything for everyone again. Yeah, I suppose the trouble is not calling somebody who works on a boat a monkey because they climb about the boat and do the rigging, right? It's because that term has now shifted meaning because of arseholes, I suppose. I guess that's what they're getting at. But yeah, I understand that. It's sort of like how in England we have a delicious version of a meatball called a faggot.
Yeah, we do.
But that has shifted. Just call it a meatball nowadays.
Yeah, we should just call it a meatball, but I'll tell you what, they are fabulous.
Oh, I love faggots.
We did the same thing.
Right, next one comes in from N.
How the hell?
It's O with an umlaut, A-I-M. And what I just did then was racist, which is quite fitting. N? He said, picking on Sean is getting a tad old. Yeah? Well, we've killed him now and he's not here, so gutted. We win. No, look, to be fair, the last episode we did go a bit mental on his ass.
Yeah, but we did on purpose, because...
And he knew it was a joke, and I know we did do it on purpose. Now, when we came up with we wanted to punish Sean for having done absolutely nothing in the last 5 episodes, right? We're bringing in punishments. Now, I was going to be really cruel, and I was going to be like, okay, you got drink some vinegar, then pour some bleach in your eyes.
No, probably not that harsh.
No, not that far. But yeah, I was going to go cruel. And James came up with that idea where, you know, he made a quiz where every answer made Sean sound like a conspiracy nut.
Which he is.
Yeah, some of those answers weren't even in there, you know. But yeah, I think I'm sort of like, well, we could have gone worse with it. It was probably fucking annoying to listen to, but
Actually,
I found
yeah,
it
to
really.
be honest, it probably was annoying to listen to, so I apologise for that. But
No, it was funny though for me, and so it doesn't matter what the audience thinks. No, it does. Please listen. Please tell your friends.
No, but we had already made a solemn promise that we weren't just going to have Sean as the butt of all jokes. Mm-hmm. But shame he's such a butt.
And he's such a joke. No, so Sean, you're cool, man. No, we do like him, to be fair. It's just that, you know, he asks for it sometimes on this podcast, to be fair, and that's all there is to it. We're not like this to him in real life.
Oh wow! I mean, we are.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. Actually, I'll talk about that in a bit, but there's something you've done, actually, James, and I need to talk to you
yes.
Lassie, he says, in the last episode, did Harrison say Morkborg is Norwegian? Better watch out for them longboats, boy. So it's Swedish, isn't it? Is
Yeah.
it? Oh, is it? It's one of those Scandi
Stockholm
Ouija.
Cartel, isn't it? Is
Yeah.
is the dudes.
That makes sense. I wonder why it was called that. It's just that they make so many references to Norwegian black metal in the opening intro, so I just assumed.
They just
sorry
like
about
it.
that.
Just
Sorry
like
about
the
that.
genre.
Yeah, but as you all know, I'm a racist, so that's why.
Well, that's true.
That's why that happened. Morkborg is one of the Scandi Ouija ones, and that's fine. And that's racist. So, yeah,
Is
sorry.
it?
No, I don't know. Sorry about that to the Swedes. I just seen James readjusting a picture of a muscly Kirby I had printed off at a photo printing station. Is that really inspiring you?
It's good because it's like I'm looking at you, but I'm actually looking at the Kirby.
That's what I want to be, though, so that's fine. That's it for feedback. Let's do some news.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, yeah, news punch.
Vegan gets annoyed over virtual meat.
What? Oh, I know the one that you're looking at. Is it the one with where they're cutting a tree and it says vegan steak?
No.
Oh.
The news was there was an anonymous DM that took to Reddit recently because one of his players at his games was a vegan, right? And of course, it being D&D, a lot of the players they went and they were butchering animals, making stew out of them, this, that, and the other, and the vegan wasn't happy with it. And he sort of X-carded the whole situation and asked the DM if he could please not include any references to that type of stuff in the game anymore. Now, I thought it was interesting because a lot of people have done a video on this or given their 2 cents on it, and I feel like the DM wasn't nasty about it when he took to Reddit. He was just like, well, what is the best way to deal with this
Well, what's the
situation?
best solution? Help me out, guys.
I was thinking about this because Professor Dungeon Master, obviously, he's a guy I steal a lot of content from, and I watched his video, and he was saying that, you know, it's perfectly fine because if butchering and eating things isn't the main theme of your game, you just gloss over it and move on, right? If one player's not comfortable with it.
True.
And he also
But if
mentioned,
it's a farming simulator RPG,
then you're fucked, really. I mean, there's no two ways around it. I mean, in Digimon, they used to do it that meat grew on trees, so I guess you could go that length. But
yeah.
then there's certain types of vegan that won't eat anything unless it falls off the tree naturally.
oh, that's a bit fucked up, mate. You could be
It's
starving there and a complete fruit-bearing tree that the only way that they come down
Just
is if you
please
take
fall
them.
down. Just looking at that apple so
Shouting
longingly.
at it.
A crow pecking at it. Yeah, so I was thinking about this, right, and I think, like, on the surface it seems fine, right? It's basically completely inoffensive to just be like, okay, well, you know, I can just gloss over that from now on.
Yeah.
But let's say, for example, I was thinking about it in terms of our MCC game, right? I mean, there's no real world animals in that, but, you know, there are some things that come close to it. You know, a dog, but a two-headed dog, or whatever.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, if you're out in the fucking wilderness in the game and you're stranded in the middle of nowhere and you don't find any fucking berries, you don't find any fruit, what are you going to do? You're going to have to kill and eat something. So what do you say then? If the DM said to you, okay, no references to be included about eating and killing meat, okay, so you fight the dog, you kill it, and then the DM goes, you've got 4 food. You just say that, you gloss over it, you've got 4 food.
Yeah.
But then that sort of is implied that you have butchered and killed that sweet, sweet dog,
Yeah,
right?
that's true, yeah.
So where do you
Sweet
draw the
dog
line?
with
I mean,
2 heads. to care for.
two
Beautiful.
two heads to make a delicious stock,
Yeah.
and the rest of it offal.
Lots more awful.
Lovely. And yeah, I was just thinking about it in terms of that, because there does come a point where you really can't get around it, especially in a fantasy game, right? You could go into every pub and they say, yeah, we've got stew, generic stew.
I feel like in terms of fantasy games, it's just part of the parcel.
Yeah, because it's just that's the world they were living in, right? Or at least if you've got medieval themes to it. Yeah, it's a little bit weird, but he did bring up the fact that it was like essentially the GM said that he said that he would never include any references to real world animals getting butchered.
Right.
But other ones would be fine. So if you killed a giant, well, that's a frog though, isn't it? Because are there any fucking fantasy animals from the game that you would eat? Probably not. I'm not butchering and eating a goblin. That's Disease Town.
Yeah, well, technically
An orc,
not
that's basically a
animals,
man.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man.
A roided up man.
Slod. You could make a nice salad out of a slod.
Slard, mate. No, how about... But surely... I don't know, it's a bit confusing because if they... how would you even put that? The only way that you could be kind to everyone at the table, because I don't enjoy the militant vegans who are just like, it's about me. It should be all inclusive, and if they fine, they can request, please don't talk about meat and stuff because it puts me off because I love animals. Yeah.
But the best they can really expect is for us to sort of try not to where possible.
Yeah, it will
See what
just
I mean?
be like, okay, if at any point you come across an animal or vegetation and you'd like to get some food, then what you should do is just say, I would like to forage for food. And then you forage, and that's
And
the
then we
only
just keep it
type
as like an alien, like a generic supply. It's just food.
Subliminal or a sub kind of food gathering.
I mean, that really is the best you can do. I mean, and in Professor Dungeon Meister's video, he spoke about, what if the person had real world trauma linked to that? What if they'd, at a young age, seen footage of an abattoir or something like that? And it's like, well...
That's fine, but if that is the case, then I think that person who has had that experience, they should... If they're uncomfortable with the situation, at least bring it to light and just say, something happened in my past. I'm squeamish about it, or something like that. Because if you don't bring it to light, which I presume within the contained text and reach out to everyone to how do I deal with this, it didn't say anything like that.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. So I think, it's just a case of where you've got to go, okay, we gloss over it. Yeah. There's only so far you can go, because if you do kill something and then eat it, I mean, that's... But then, do you know what I find a bit strange about it? So we're talking about, he said the solution he came to was that the guy that posted it, he said that, he would no longer include references to real world animals. But then but those animals aren't they're real world animals, but they're not real animals. They're fantasy ones, right?
Yeah,
so then if you're killing a made up animal,
animals ever.
Right, exactly. So if you're killing a made up animal, what's the fucking difference?
Well, this is the thing as well. It's like if you're going on that sort of wavelength, then you do understand that every made-up animal is based on a real-world animal. Like an owl bear is literally an owl and a bear.
That's both. You could make owl soup or bear soup. Yeah. Depends on which end you use.
That kind of stuff. It's like unicorn, horse.
That's a horse. That's a horse.
That's a horse.
Slod. That's based on the real-world animal, the salad.
Yeah, exactly. They're getting all leafy.
But yes, I agree. There so many of the monsters that you would even think to eat are so close to animals, and that's the reason you would think to eat them.
It's true.
I think the only solution is to eat everything. No, I don't know, man. It's just it's interesting to think about. I don't think I have a good answer for it, but I think it was quite polarizing, because at the end of the day, if that player brings something decent to your table and you want to keep them there, you'll make that sacrifice.
Well,
if they're being an annoying cunt about it, you're well within your rights to ask them to leave.
Well, also, just think about video games. If there's like a wandering fucking pig or something, a warthog, you kill it, and then you can pick it up, maybe put it on a fire, and then it will turn into food, right? And then that goes in your inventory. Therefore, you can heal yourself. That's the mechanic typically.
it's an important part of it.
Yeah. So the only way that you could conceivably get around it is literally just go have a forage for food button.
Yeah, pretty much. So, and you've got attacked by this warthog, you've killed it, and then just go, right, give me a foraging roll. Let's see how many food wink that you get from this area.
Food where the O's are eyes, warthog eyes.
Some feed. Oh, right. That's brilliant. All right, well, that is it for news, really. Well, there's a new expansion coming out for Tales from the Loop, but nobody cares. Shall we get into what we've been playing?
One of these. Oi, yeah. What you slay?
So we've been carrying on with the MCC game. We'll get to that in a minute because we took a week off. Sean, he's been a bit down in the dumps due to some personal stuff recently, so we took a week off of MCC to play some very cathartic Hero Quest.
Oh man, yeah.
Now, we know in the past, whenever somebody's made a fucking fuck up at the game, right, we've had to reference it on the podcast. And James, so you've been recently trying to get too swole to even control.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
just,
it is.
and so you've been eating protein powder.
Yeah, just straight from the bag.
Just the powder itself, just snorting lines of it. But you did it.
No, I realised what it was, actually.
Okay, go on. But before you go
No,
on.
I'll let you continue fully, and then I'll say what I know. it was.
Okay, no, James did a fart at the game that was so disgusting, and it lingered for so long, like a good 10 minutes, and it smelled like sulphur, like pure egg smell. It was
We
disgusting.
had to open. It's one of those windows on the high-rise blocks where the window opens like a big door, and we had to open it up, and it made all of us cold at the table. But it was quite funny because just before I put my hand up to say yes, it was me. It was really, really funny because Harrison thought it was Sean.
And we sort of had it.
And then they were arguing with each other, and I sat there.
Sean was like, I didn't fucking do it, man. And I was like, Sean, I
And
know
like, "It
you
was
did.
you, man."
I could see it on your fucking face.
And
Like, I was getting...
it was really funny because I had this like little grimace on my face for ages until I just went, yeah, it was me, yeah.
It was one of the worst smells I've ever smelled. I mean, I was trying to vape to cover it up, and like, oh my god. Like, if I think about it now, it makes me feel a bit sick. And so, what's going on with your diet then?
Wait, I need to tell you what else happened that same night.
Oh no.
So about, I woke up in the morning and then I was in the bathroom with Fiona, and then she just went, I've got grievance. She was like, at like 1 something in the morning, she woke up. I thought I died because of the smell. She got woken up by the fart I did. But I realised it was some the pork and dauphinoise I ate at work, because that's the only day that it's happened like that. And that's the only thing that I had that could have...
It was rancid. And I'm like, no offence, James, but I'm definitely going to put it as a jingle, because I decided, because I've been doing more stuff on our YouTube channel, I decided to record a POV video of me playing Hero Quest. And there's a bit where you just say, got to go fart, and you stand up and leave the room. And I'm definitely going to turn that into jingle. Because we said, right, if you're going to do it again, you have to go out into the fucking hallway. And then there's a bit where James, sort of two beers in, a little bit drunk, just goes, gotta go fart. Like, that's like so casually.
Yeah, but I did the nice thing, because you said you got out the door.
Yeah, you did do it.
So I did
Fair
it.
enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, you redeemed yourself, but it was fucking horrible. It was so bad.
But it's one of those ones where I literally didn't expect it to, when you just don't expect it to be that stenchy, and then you're just like, wow.
Yeah, it was
So I didn't on purposely try and kill everyone.
No, I know that, but, you're fired. But yeah, we played some Hero Quest. It was good.
But the fart was better.
That ruined it for me. Actually, I hate that board game now.
No, Hero Quest is great. We've said it before. You should get it, buy it, play it with your mum.
I think actually, because we're going to talk about engagement with players later on, there's a lot of things that I think RPGs could learn from Hero Quest in that respect. But one of the main things I think is how farts it sort of resolves everything, because turns are just so easy. Players are engaged because it's just like bam, 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 it's back to your
Players
turn.
are engaged because they have to be.
Exactly, you don't have a choice.
I mean, it was also quite obvious at the table when like, say we weren't, because you're just like, it's your fucking turn, man. It's like, oh, is it?
Yeah, I mean, well, the trouble is, because Hero Quest is such an easy game to play, I feel like we can sort of, from I don't know how to put it, but like from an intellectual standpoint, sort of have a week off and just be a bit mental.
Yeah. It's like you don't have to.
You don't have to think like in
calculate
RPGs.
so
You're
much.
really thinking outside the box a lot of the time, and as you know, we always have fun at the table with them. But when Hero Quest, it's just like you really are just killing shit, and that's part of the fun, I guess. Killing and exploring. That's
Yeah.
it. But yeah, it was pretty good. We did 2 levels.
We
Two
did.
more levels. So
We
we did
did.
the first time we played it. We played the first level and then we done the second 2, and we've taken our characters back up again. Finally, I got an upgrade for mine. Got a broadsword, and you got a longsword.
A long sword.
I'm the longsword.
I've got staff from a wizard, so he can attack diagonally, which is pretty
Nice. Yeah. I mean, there's not much else to report, but except the new box set is very good. Go and get it. It's really fucking good.
I do enjoy how well even the old one is packed. Although the old one had a lot of
Paper furniture.
paper furniture, whereas the new Hero Quest has really solid plastic that's never going to degrade ever.
Yeah, it's well good. Really, really good. And we've been carrying on with the MCC Mutant Cool Classics game.
Yes, mate.
That's the full title. Yeah, so very well. We've played a couple of sessions, obviously, since the last time we did the podcast. But the sort of overarching story is that these guys are mutants. They're the what is the last remains of humanity 12,000 years after some disaster.
It's like that we believe that we're the last colony on Earth, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, believe is the operative word there, because essentially these guys have been, they're warders, and that essentially means they're allowed to leave the village and do missions and collect things for people, so that's sort of their role in the mutant village. We've got James is an electrically generating, not flying raccoon. We've got Sean, he's playing Unit Truckton, who is a mutant with lots of stretchy powers.
Yeah,
And
bigulation.
he's got bigulation, he's got debigulation,
Yeah.
and then we've got Frankie Fungowski, who is the Plantian mold man. Yeah, and essentially they've done a couple of missions now where they worked for this blacksmith in town, and the blacksmith is like, there's something going on with the electric fence in the town, and because it was left there by humanity, which they call the Ancient Ones. And they traced the problem with the electric fence to a hatch underneath the blacksmith's house, because they all live in these like old, decrepit buildings that used to belong to the Ancient Ones, with no knowledge of actually how to repair any of them. But yeah, down below the guy's house, it turns out that there's this massive facility that was keeping the electric generators online and the
It was
electric fence working.
gigantic as well, which is madness, because initially what we... as we entered it, it was to us just like a dungeon crawl, and there was a few rooms, and there was like these weird monsters floating about, and we were just like, why?
That eat electricity.
Yeah, so we had to sort of battle our way through some of these areas, and it was quite fun to do a dungeon crawl in the midst of all of this, like in our hometown as well, where
Well,
the threat is like literally beneath us.
Yeah, I mean, that was what kind of made it fun, was that it's like this... Yeah, I think you guys kind of expected... Because I didn't think you were going to go down there, and then when you did, you were just sort of like, all right, we'll just have a quick look in there. And I was like, oh, fuck it, hell. They don't know what they got themselves into.
Yeah.
But it was a 2-session-long thing where they were trying to sort it out, and as a sort of just long story short, they did. But what happened in the end is that they get to the end of it, and they see an Archon, and these Archons are... machine children of the god that lives beneath the earth, which is this the god is like this planetary defense system that's built into the earth itself. But for some reason, these archangels that are meant to protect humanity, these robot children, they're suddenly attacking the party, and they don't know why. And now this has happened also at another location that they previously went to, and it's becoming worrying. Because recently also monsters have been seen more, they've been acting up, and the planet, well, humanity isn't being defended anymore for some reason. So
Yeah. It's been attacked.
the leader of the village now says that he wants all of the guys to devote their time 100% to researching why the angels are attacking and why this is happening. So the guys, they sort of agreed to do it, but they'd already accepted a mission where they were looking for the blacksmith's wife who had recently gone missing.
Yep.
Now, what was funny is that we were doing the travel mechanics, like rolling for hexes, rolling for random encounters, all this shit. Food.
Yeah, we're doing directions.
And, it ends up where they're trying to track her through the woods and get incredibly lost. Like, they lose her tracks and then just start guessing, end up on a beach of a Great Lake and roll 2 random encounters and get probably... So I've made a table out of all of the ones from the MCC book, right? And some others that
And you
I've...
put them in a rando order.
And these guys in the same night rolled the 2 worst ones ever. And they're straight from the book. There's this giant... cactus T-Rex called a Cactaceae Rex. And that's the first thing they fight, which was really quite difficult.
Well, it was almost TPK.
Almost a TPK. Luckily, they have this neutron rifle, which is an instant kill weapon. But the trouble is that all monsters get a save on it, and it uses up varying amounts of power depending on how powerful you want to make it. So the fight goes on for a good couple of rounds before they manage to get the neutron rifle off. And James, quite sillily, he's got this ability called symbiotic touch. He has to touch a being to be able to communicate a thought to it, an idea, and then it does it.
Yeah, but it's only out of practice how I've learned how to try and bide my time, because Harrison does this great thing where he goes, right, you've got 5 seconds right now to say the 3 words, because depending on the role, depends on the command I can give. Sometimes it's 1 word, sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's a sentence. And the best, well, there are varying levels, and one of them as well, which I did, was one where I meld with the being for 24 hours and become it and can completely control it. But I only had 3 words in this case. And I managed to just say, it was something like go far away or something like that.
Well, that was on the next one, but on this one, I think you made it lose a turn, didn't you? And it was like, stop doing this or whatever.
Oh yeah.
But the funny thing is that you went up and you were like, right, symbiotic touch, and I'm like, this thing's a cactus, man. And it was like, but yeah, you hurt yourself a little bit, but you did make it lose a turn. And then Sean's character had the neutron rifle, but unfortunately he's got the negative mutation, a defect called delusional, and he can't use certain tech levels of artifacts of the ancient ones. So he gets out the neutron rifle, doesn't even understand what it is, and just chucks it to Frankie, who then fires it. And they've got quite a lot of cactus vegan meat from this dinosaur. But it was the next fight where James, you really smashed it, because
well, it was one of those roles where we're just like, oh yeah, cool, yeah, let's do the other roles. Like Harrison sat there, he's like, I don't fucking believe it.
I know, yeah, because it was like we got one random encounter with that giant T-Rex thing, and then the next one is like, this thing is like a Godzilla level monster. It's essentially Mothra, and it's this thing called Evox, and it's a giant insect moth thing. And one of its abilities is that it can blast 100-foot radius, basically explosion out of its mouth.
Yeah.
And I can't remember how you fucking did it, but you got it to come close enough to where you could touch it, because it was just going to fly in the air and just absolutely batter the lot of you. It wasn't a mind blast, was it? Because I know Sean's character, he can mind blast, but I don't remember.
No, I think it was a mind blast, and that means that it stopped floating, it fell down to the ground.
Yeah, something like that. And then James used symbiotic touch and made it fuck off, which was very, very handy, because, I mean, they really...
We literally would have died, that was it.
Yeah, Sean mind blasted it, made it miss a turn, and then that gave James a chance to then come in and symbiotic touch it. But yeah, it was like, if that had popped off one attack, you would have fucking died. Yeah, end of story.
Simple.
Yeah, so that was rough, and that pretty much comprised an entire session, because it was like you guys sort of tracking this woman through the woods, getting a bit lost, getting attacked by these fucking things, hiding out for the night and resting. Now, they also got another... So I've got a table of weird weather phenomenons, and one of them was a transonic storm, and it's like portals, sound waves, like things like this. It's like a storm with all sorts of weird scientific phenomena in it. And they had to try and survive it and get to this. They saw a landmark that was like this old drugstore, and if they could get in, then they would survive. And that was fucking annoying. So it's basically just the entire world against you that night.
Oh, that was madness.
It was fucking
absolute
horrible.
Madness.
But one thing is, they get to the drugstore and they see that somebody's recently clawed something up from the ground. Like they tried to gather something in a hurry, so they at least know that somebody's been here recently. Long story short is that they track the woman to this, they find another civilization, finding that they aren't the lost, vestiges of humanity. In actual fact, there's this whole civilization of actual humans, pure strain humans. So their mutation is that they can't be mutated. And they all worship this big high rise, and most of them work in a quarry, literally working themselves to death to build extra floors onto this high rise building, in the hopes that one of them will be promoted and allowed inside the high rise building, as opposed to the millions of tents that are outside of the building. Sort of a very clever metaphor, if you know. But so they meet one of the guys, and one of the guys there, and they're all cool with mutants. Like, they've seen a lot of them. In fact, they tell you, and there's a lot of poverty, death, people starving, people working themselves to death in this quarry. And they managed to hear, after talking to some of the people, two things. First of all, there's this other tribe called the Gene Police who hunt mutants, and they usually do their patrols
From
about
Levi's.
from Levi's. Oh yeah, that's right. They're the fashion police.
Yeah.
And if you wear bad jeans, they're gonna fuck you up. But yeah, so they come in there at 7. So the guys have basically got 4 hours to get this woman out of the high-rise building, because she was apparently let in. And some of the villagers are kind of miffed about that, because they've worked for 10 years in the fucking quarry, like working their fingers down to the bone. And then this woman is an outside hire that manages to get into the high-rise.
Yeah, she just walks straight in.
And essentially they need to, on each floor there's a specific key card to use a gravity lift to go up to the next floor. What was lucky is that they get to the first floor, and Sean really fucked up. I mean, he fucked up big time, because James had used symbiotic touch and had actually physically merged with one of the security guards.
Yeah, so that meant that I was him and me at the same time. So I basically, the trapping is that I absorb everything that he's got, but he's basically useless. So we just went, right, you just kind of appear in his torso.
Yeah, because you're smaller than him.
Yeah.
So it's just like your face is poking out from his torso, which is covered by armour, to be fair.
Yeah.
You got his gun. You
Yeah.
look like him. You sound like him.
Yeah.
And it was perfect, because then they had free access to the first floor without having to have permission to go in. And of course, Sean goes in, forgets the plan immediately, and his character just goes, "He's with me, man. He's
my
under
prisoner."
arrest." Yeah. And it was like, Sean, what the fuck are you doing?
It's like, did you not hear what I just said?
Now, not to be a dick here, but I think if somebody's not paying attention, then they need to be punished. And so I could have just said, Sean, remember, so if you want to take that back, you can. But instead I just went, right, you say that, and now everyone's attacking you. And he was like, oh, shit. And for the rest of the game, he did pay attention. So, yeah. But what was cool was then Frankie, he's the mold man. He's got this fucking ability where he can generate radiation. Now, all it is really is just a damaging spell or mutation. But he rolled a fucking 32, meaning that he does a 100-foot fucking radius blast, and that is like a 100-foot radius sphere, I should say.
Yeah,
so that means he's killed
50-foot radius in all directions.
Oh, 50-foot, yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Maths. But he killed everyone on the first floor instantly, and quite a lot of people on the second floor as well, because it just sort of radiated through. So yeah, now these guys have been making their way up increasingly absurd floors. So on the bottom, you've got all of these like sort of farmers that have these hydroponic labs growing weed and stuff on the bottom floor, and then the second floor was like sort of working class people, and they fought them, and now they're onto the third floor where it's like two middle class idiots, one of them living in a glass house, the other one in a Lego house, and they've been fighting for hundreds of years, and they don't even know why, and it's just two middle class idiots, and it's almost like the entire floor is also like laden with grass to the point where it looks like a rolling field with houses opposing at each sides, and that's sort of where we left it. So they essentially, it's like like a not too subtle reference to different stratospheres of class in society, and all of the floors represent one of those, but by people that don't understand it even slightly.
Yeah.
Which is this is what the people outside worship, and they're on the third floor of what they saw from the outside looked to be about 7. So, but we had to leave the game there, unfortunately.
Yeah,
it was like midway through a session, but they've been up 3 floors, haven't found this bloke's wife yet. But I suppose the other objective is also to find out about any Archangel shit going on while
I
you're
feel
there.
like we're definitely in a good place to do that.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, this place is extremely strange, and if there's going to be activity of that sort, it's probably going to be here, isn't it?
Mm.
But yeah, how are you? We 8 episodes into MCC now. How do you like it? And how do you think it compares to DCC? Do you think it's better, worse?
So I think it's great. I've played a lot of DCC, and I think I said the other day it's like DCC but on steroids, because
Yes.
everything's a bit more gonzo.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's just particularly because of the class that we've picked, because we're Children of the Light. So we must, if there's potential of gaining mutations from a radiation source, then we will do everything we can to try and bathe in the light, or
Well,
bathe in
and
the glow.
The boss monsters of these archangels emit radiation when they die,
Yeah.
and so
We sort of go over and
your
like,
characters
pour
have
ourselves
changed
in it.
quite a lot from the beginning.
Yeah,
Got
I've lost
better, but also
better and worse.
yeah.
Yeah, but it's so that's why I think there's a bit more gonzo in it, as well as the random encounter table, which kind of almost fucked us. But I suppose that's just part and parcel of the system itself. I think it's
I think it's supposed to be that way, and if you wanted less gonzo, yeah, if you played all humans, it would be slightly less, but then remember that they get artifact bonuses, so they would still have weird abilities, they would just be linked to artifacts. And also you would be seeing a lot of weird shit rather than being the weird shit.
yeah. I feel like this MCC gives what's it called? Bloody. What's it called? Bloody.
It's alright, we'll cut this out. You're listening to the 3T RPG podcast. Gives...
Fallout. That's it. There you go. So I think MCC gives Savage Fallout a run for its money in terms of post-apocalyptic settings.
I'd agree with that, and I think what I like about it is it's not the same old thing where it's like, I mean, there is a survival aspect to it, obviously, but it's not the same old thing where it's like humans, fighting other humans, and the real monster is the humans. It's like
There's a lot more going on.
this is a lot longer after the disaster, to where this is just the way in which people live. It's not
Yeah.
as if it's like, oh my god, we're on the brink of destruction any minute. It's like, well, we're a tribe that's living pretty happy out in the woods, and now things are happening to us, and that's fucking annoying.
Well, how is it written? Because I like... Is it your writing that has, for instance, human artifacts like a Sailor Moon Funko Pop?
Oh, that's a lot of that. A lot of that is me. So,
Okay.
but the thing is, the way the MCC book puts it is that the artifacts in that book, those are just sort of like the best ones, the weapons, the things that you expect in the RPG book.
Yeah.
But anything really can be an artifact, and anything can have an AI built into it, right?
Yeah.
So we did one where it's like, I've specifically tried to focus on, things that I think are really fucking stupid that people like, that then I put as like an artifact, right? But a t-shirt could be an artifact of the ancient ones, and that's, the examples it gives in the book. So I guess to an extent it's a bit of both. It's like, those were my choices, but in the book it does say, anything could be that. Anything that has a computer in it could have an AI in it as well. So, those shirts you used to get, which, had a
had the
screen on it.
LED,
Yeah, right. So you could have one of those that has an AI and has a personality, and that's very... yeah, it's like a really intended way to play the game. So, you could have that. And what would be cool is, because there's no speaker, it'd have to communicate using only those LEDs. Something just fell over on my shelf.
Scared the shit out of me. I feel
so-
like it's really well done in that regard, in that case, because I know it's a universe mechanic, even though you've trapped it using that mechanic in particular ways that we understand because of our culture and all that kind of stuff that we absorb ourselves with.
Yeah, like modern pop culture
Yeah.
type stuff.
So I feel like that trapping of that stuff is a bit better, because it makes it more. It's like more kind of on the nose, a bit funny, but also really quite
Well, so
interesting.
It's also quite a good way, because like D&D or DCC or whatever, right? When somebody tells you need to go and get treasure, you know
Yeah.
exactly what they mean.
Yeah.
And in this universe, it's the same, because you just go, well, you worship, anything the ancient ones. That's good shit. You like that shit.
Yeah.
So to an extent, you know what treasure is. When you're looking around, if I tell you get 25 creds worth of treasure, yeah, that's gonna be t-shirts, postcards.
Yeah, it's going to be like random assortments, stuff like that.
Right.
Maybe I don't know, shag bands.
But yeah, exactly. 100% no. I need to put more like early 2000s shit in there. Papa Roach. But it's just a giant roach that's a dad. I'm losing my mind. What is it? I'm losing my mind. Da, 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 da. Wish somebody would tell me I'm fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so I do think that it's definitely, the book is like written in such a way where a lot of it is supposed to be silly, but then it's just having fun with what I think. If it was written as a novel that was taken really seriously, you'd be like, this is fucking lame. But like, he really has a lot of fun with it. Do you know what I mean? Like, they've got the items in there like sonic screwdriver, but it's a sonic spanner, like loads of weird shit like that. And then the way it encourages players, especially a lot of the mutations, are fucking insane.
Well, some of them, yeah, they're pretty wild. I do love the mutations tables. I know they're just like spell tables in DCC, and they just get better depending on what role you get. But I do like how creative they are, such as that symbiotic touch and melding with the person I'm trying to control.
I mean, that's part of the fun, though, isn't it? Because it's like DCC is fucking amazing, and it's probably will be my preference because I'm just more of a fantasy guy. But like the spells in that, if you do flaming hands, a high result on a flaming hand spell is still going to be quite predictable. Not like it's going to do more damage and it'll be a hell of a lot more fun than doing it in D&D. But like in this, where you've got really weird shit, sometimes you don't know what's going to happen when you roll a high roll on certain things. Like symbiotic touch, we didn't know you would meld with the person.
No, not at all. All I wanted to do was control them and like let us through, or just do the whole thing of I don't know, in games where they can be so distracted that they walk away from the immediate area even though you're standing in front of them. That kind of
and then it's
thing.
like, well, to be fair, it's sort of in the name because you sort of have symbiosis with this man now.
Yeah.
But like at the highest result, it's like not only are your minds melded, but you're now him for a bit.
It's good.
Awesome.
I like how that trapping is as well, because it says for an entire 24 hours that happens, and then the body dissimulates and just like dissolves away and then that's it. They're just gone.
And now you've got his gun as well.
Yeah,
that's a really good gun.
Yeah.
What is it? You also got one recently. You got anaerobic, is it? Where you can survive under incredible pressure, like very, very far underwater, or
without like needing to breathe and
or space, or fucking awesome. Yeah, it's a great game. I'm enjoying the hell out of it, and we'll get back to it next week because we had a break playing Hero Quest, obviously, and that is it for what we've been playing.
Yeah, baby.
Well, that took fucking ages. Sorry. Shall we do main subject?
Yeah, the only one we didn't say about slaying was Alien, but
oh no, we should. All right, and that is not it for what we've been playing.
You thought we couldn't talk about what we've been playing anymore?
Right, we better keep this brief because we've gone on for fucking ages.
We finally got to the
fourth
one. Oh, third for me.
Fourth episode of
overall.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad.
Welcome to the podcast of two old idiots trying to remember how many games they played.
What? So fourth episode of the Alien RPG that Nick is kindly running for us over Roll20/Discord.
Yes, mate.
And it's fucking, it's so good.
Yeah, and we'll probably, I was speaking to Nick recently, and I was hoping to get him back on the podcast for an episode or two, and then talk about online games, because he's very, very good at running them. I mean, Alien RPG is it's great. I mean, the mechanics are very good anyway, and we've spoken about it on previous podcasts, but specifically the way it deals with stress, insofar as it relates to, like, in Call of Cthulhu you probably have the insanity be the stand-in, do you know what I mean? And this you've got stress, so it's
but each stress point impacts your immediate next roll.
Yeah, and the higher that you can go up the chart, like if you've got a lot of stress, you actually get more dice that make you succeed, but you become then more susceptible to a panic roll.
Yeah.
And the more stress you have, the higher your panic roll is going to be, because you just roll a d6 and add the amount of stress you have. So, like, now essentially the whole plot is that we were going on to, we were flying our ship to do this delivery, right, for Weyland-Yutani, and then we find out that there's this old derelict nearby, so we're taking out cryosleep and we have to go and pick it up and salvage it for our company. It's an extra mission we've been given.
Yeah.
Have to salvage crew. cargo, the ship itself, which means doing a lot of repairs and a lot of exploring of the ship, which, now, I'm going to surprise you, listeners. There's aliens on board.
Yeah,
there's aliens. And they're really angry aliens.
Yeah, they like... It's straight out of the films, isn't it?
Yeah, it's straight out of Compton, but also straight out of the films.
But also straight out of space, because they're aliens.
Straight out of Space Compton, man. But yeah, and you know, we're really compensating. It doesn't even make sense. Right, but anyway, so we're doing this shit, and obviously we've been, for the last 2 episodes of the actual thing, we've been milling around on this derelict ship where there's aliens about, trying to fix it and try and get back to our ship so we can tow the old one, right?
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, it's just the thing is we've been on there so long, which means that we've built up a lot of stress points, and to the point where my character finally snapped last game. I'm the captain, and there hasn't been a good point to recover stress. I mean,
no,
what we could have done is gone back to our ship, but we were focused on getting the job done quickly so we didn't die.
Yeah, we didn't want to have to do this. Like, we're loving the storyline very much. But we didn't want to, and we didn't want to just sort of like run away and just sort of, you know, like just go and have to sort of replay any events.
Yeah, because I mean, if we leg it and then the alien just stands at the one entryway we have to the derelict ship, well, we're fucked then, aren't we? So we might as well, and also we split up as well.
Oh, it's so funny because splitting the party is always a no-no, but in this system.
You sort of have to a little bit.
Yeah, but we had a 3-way split, which was pretty mad.
Yeah, we had the pilot on our ship dealing with this kid who turned out to be an android. We had me and the HR guy going on exploring the ship, trying to find any equipment, things like this. And then we had your character and the engineer milling around trying to fix the derelict, and obviously getting in contact with aliens, face huggers, eggs, all of this shit. Proper full-on adult xenomorph as well. It was not nice. And so my character finally snapped when we were like one movement phase away from going back to our ship.
Oh, yeah.
And I snapped, turned around like fucking Jack Torrance from The Shining with and just stalking after this HR guy. And what made me snap was that our ship had gone into self-destruct mode, because this little kid, this stowaway that we picked up, turned out to be an android who then went down to all of the power area of the ship and got himself fucking killed jumping into the wires.
Yeah, on purpose.
And all of his blood was white because it was blood made of mercury, and it had gone everywhere. And Nick described it as looking like milk. Yeah. And then, of course, the player that had witnessed this got onto his radio and was like, "Everyone, come quick! The android's gone milk." It was so weird, but yeah. So my character snapped and started stalking after the HR guy, trying to kill him, and you snapped me out of it, wasn't it?
Yeah, so in the end I was like, I want to do everything in my power to try and get my boss out of this stupor that she's in. So I put myself in harm's way, walked towards her with the gun facing me, and then gave her a hug.
Yeah, it was very, very nice.
It was
very
a
nice.
good, like, move, like a cinematic move, because I feel like that especially... Obviously, the game that we're playing, the fact that it's
we're playing a version of the cinematic rules as well. So
it sort of everything that you do, it was really cool to give it a cinematic presence. And
I agree,
that's
and
why I explained it.
That was a nice move, because I think our characters are besties as well.
Yeah, well, I'm that's the way that we kind of played it out. So it's really good fun.
So it was supposed to be the last episode, but I think we got one left in us, because where we left it was that. Was it our ship was buggered and now we're going to have to try and fly the derelict back?
Yeah, we're trying to...
And it's infested with all sorts of shit.
Yeah, and the cryo sleep people are about to wake up, but they're infected.
Yeah, so we found the crew. They're all in cryo sleep, but they're up and they fucked up.
They're going to be aliens, isn't it?
But it was a hell of a lot of fun and a lot of laughs as well. One thing that we had an air scrubber that cures the air, and one of our characters is playing a character with a West Country accent, and we said that the insult, because he basically said, this is all because of that nasty scrubber, as in the broken air scrubber, but it sounded like a proper West Country insult. He's like, "You nicked my apples, you nasty scrubber." So I just want people to say that the next game you're at, just say nasty scrubber as an insult. But yeah, Alien. We've gone on too long, but yeah, Nicky's run an absolute blinding game of Alien Online. It was very good.
Boy.
And that's it. Main subject.
Name. Subject. Magic. Main. Subject.
Tokyo.
Main. Subject.
A good campaign is made up of a number of things: world, story, characters, interesting missions, and so on. And yet, even if you have all of these things, there is one ingredient that, if it's missing, none of these things will matter. And that is keeping your players engaged. It's why all you cunts listeners, have tried to read Lord of the Rings 8 times and failed to get through it, but can watch the films over and over, because those films are engaging. And your games need that to succeed, and they can be lacking in any number of things or excelling in everything, but if your players aren't engaged properly, they will not give a shit. You could be the biggest genius with the greatest world and story and so on, but if you deliver it like the neckbeard virgin you likely are, and I can say that, right, because I'm a neckbeard virgin, right, so it's not an insult, then nobody will enjoy your game. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about techniques for engaging your players in meaningful ways and getting them into the game, because I think it might be the single most important ingredient to any game, right?
Well, it is, and there's this thing I really don't like hearing in the community. Like I work with someone who plays D&D every Sunday and stuff, and then he's told me bits about his campaign. He'd be like, "Oh yeah," and just at a random point, because they play on Discord with cameras on and stuff. So at some random point, I just had some glasses next to me and I put them on, and someone's typed a message to me, so they looked like security. And then slowly all of us found glasses, and then they all started pretending to be security. They were technically doing it in character, as they said, but I feel like that deviated so far away from what they were originally accomplishing.
Sort of, you can tell that they have that they've stopped.
I hate hearing stuff like that. I'm just like, all right, so. Either, in my opinion, after hearing that story, either your players don't enjoy it, or the DM's doing a shit job of.
Or there's a lull at that moment that everyone is latched onto.
It annoys me when I hear that, because I feel like, but there's so much more you could be doing in game world to make
engage
the story great and all that stuff.
But I think that sometimes, and probably that would be my first point, is that sometimes that variation, right? I don't think you can expect players to be 100% on all the time, right? That's why things like downtime is really fucking important, because when it comes to it, if you're engaged and you're really intense the whole time and all of this, downtime is an opportunity to go, right, what do you do around the town? Okay, yeah, I'm going to fix my house, whatever. And then the players, they get a point where they're engaged in a different way to the main part of the game. And if you look at Nick's Alien game, that's perfect for that, because that's a fucking tense game, right? And it's horrible and it's hard, and you really have to be on the ball the entire time, otherwise you're going to get either munched or go mental, right? And there was a point where we were just doing our roles for food and supplies, and doing some backstory bits where we had flashbacks, right?
Yeah, okay.
Now, when we were doing the food and supplies, we were engaged with the game, but at that point it was from a systemic point of view as opposed to a role-playing point. So having that variance of what you're doing, like if your game was 100% dungeon crawls, that's going to get a little bit dull eventually. There's going to be points where people start not paying attention. In this, we were engaged in the game in a systemic way, but started being a little bit silly outside. Because if you remember, I can't remember, somebody was saying something and I went, right, I'm going to take off 2 food. Somebody interrupted me and went, shut up. And then we all started going, right, I'll take off 2 water, shut up. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Have you used any air? Shut up.
Do that, shut up. And then we're going to just, and then I'm going to move that over there, shut up.
So it meant that we were, I think, varying. I mean, it's pretty basic stuff, but that was like a method in which you can keep your players engaged by going, right, you don't have to be in character the whole time. You don't have to be thinking about what move you're going to do on a monster the whole time. And even like some of the greatest dungeon crawls ever, like Temple of Elemental Evil, that has parts where you're not really supposed to be in the dungeon the whole time. You're going back to the town, you're finding stuff out, you're doing different stuff, and then you go back in, right? And keeping it varied. I mean, in that particular case, hearing your mate's story about how they just started fucking around, that's when you know you've lost your players. Yeah. I mean, the worst is when you see somebody then start going on their phone. right?
Yeah. This is the.
But it's a similar genre.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now I know that we're all adults. I don't ban phones at my table because I'm not a cunt. But but we're all adults, and sometimes if you get a message from your wife and you're out, right, it could be something important. So absolutely do check it. But it's when I see players on their phone for ages is when I start to realise, okay, I need to do something to change this up.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily okay. They are the problem a little bit. They do need to pay attention, but to keep people paying attention is what we're talking about. Do you know what I mean? Like, one thing I wanted to talk about was TikTok, right? Although I think TikTok is completely substanceless sort of media, it keeps you engaged. It's stimulation. It's not actual entertainment. It's stimulation, right?
Yeah.
But it keeps you engaged by the virtue of it being in short bursts. And I think if you treat any session as short bursts, right, and keep it varied enough to the point where each short burst is keeping your players' attention, using that sort of method, right? So combat, right? You're not just going, okay, you hit it, you do 5 damage. What are you going to do? Once it hits, have the monster react in a certain way, like. Not making it do a move, but let's say, for example, James, you come in and you do 12 damage to a monster in MCC, right? I'm going to say you hit it, it screeches and reels back, it looks scared now, looking for another target. It's not taking an action, but I'd say looking at another target, and suddenly its eyes settle on you, and I point to another player and go, right, what are you going to do about it? It's your turn. And then something's happening at every moment. It's not just you damage, right, next turn, the monster's going to take its turn. You're adding to the narrative in short, tiny bursts every second of the game. It doesn't have to be anything amazing every time, but just keeping something happening at all times. It's never just something really dull where the world isn't reacting to you. If somebody gets hit, they react in a funny way, a crazy way, they change targets, they look like... You might even just say... give the players a hint by going, he realises now he needs to get into cover. You see him eyeing up that car behind you, and you might think he's going to dive behind it. He might not, but it gives the players an idea, and it gives them something to engage with other than just going, okay, yeah, I'm going to hit it.
Yeah, that's true. It draws players to thinking a bit more outside the box and to, or at least think about the world that's around them in that moment.
Yeah, because it keeps your attention, because you're never just letting the game just sit there and be static. You're always keeping things moving. And I mean, I even do that, say, with social encounters, right? I've seen, and I don't mind this at all, but I've seen GMs where they will have a social encounter where it's one character speaking to another character, right? The other player characters might be there, but it'll be like there's a main one talking to an NPC, right?
Yeah.
But and a good way to do this is like if there are just 3 people lurking behind you and they're having an argument with somebody, the NPC's going to go, well, what the fuck are you looking at? Or something like this to one of the other players.
Yeah.
Like, still keep that short burst mentality in mind, because it's like if you see that the other players aren't joining in any way, you don't necessarily have to have the NPC go, oi, what are you doing, or whatever.
Yeah,
you could
and
just...
it's also like you can just be like, okay, so at this moment you're not there, but you can just play some random NPCs and get involved, because I've seen it a few times where you have a GM and one player role playing out the scene because it's important to the story. And then the other players at the table just start talking.
Yeah, exactly, because they're just sat there listening, and it's like...
Or, like, even if they're talking about something coming up, be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to, like, use this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that. That's great and all, but...
They're not engaging all together.
Story, yeah.
Yeah. And I think another good way to do that is, like... Let's say, for example, James, you go into a shop, you're bargaining with a bloke about a discount. That's the usual thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's going on for fucking ages, which I've seen happen. The other two players are in the background. I might then go midway through the conversation. You'd be like, something like, okay, come on, mate, you can at least, sort me out, we're brothers, we live in the same town. And I go, right, roll personality. You roll it, and I go, okay, we'll get to the results of that in a second. Right, your character, or if, just for sake of argument, I'm like, Sean, your character's in the background, what's he doing at the moment? He might just be... browsing the shelves, or he might be that thing that he was discussing that you mentioned. He might then go, "Oh, well, I was just speaking to him. What I'm going to do is, while this is happening, I'm going to sneak up."
Note that I put down, which is about the spotlight and like moving the spotlight and moving the camera focus away from other players towards those that are either currently unengaged or are likely to, or haven't had the spotlight for a while. Just do that kind of thing around the table where you feel like, okay, Bob's not said anything for a while. I'm going to move the camera to him and be like, right, so your character's doing what? Like, and then it means that they need to either think on their feet and get back into the game, or
just describe what they're doing in the background.
Yeah.
Or I mean because then you're engaging. I mean, that was my next point as well. And I think two games that do this really well are the Powered by the Apocalypse games and ICRPG, because ICRPG,
they're all turn-based, aren't they?
Exactly, they're all turn-based, and it's all about shifting that spotlight. Because if this were a TV show with a big cast of characters, right, and one guy's up the front having a hilarious argument with the shopkeeper, it would, at the boring parts of that conversation, cut back to the other players just being like, oh, fuck. Even if they're just in the background going, when the fuck is he going to be done with this? Why does he care so much about a discount? That's something, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're keeping every player engaged in that short burst mentality. At most 3 to 5 minutes of the discussion or of whatever, but at best you really want to have it 1 to 2 minutes per player at any given time.
And we have had it at a table where, for instance, there's a scene going on just between two people, the DM and one of the players, and we've had moments where the DM will go, oh, I'll get back to you guys in just a second, but then the rest of us at the table go, no, by all means don't, because we are engaged in this, But
you're acknowledging the other people at the table at least.
That's the point. It's acknowledge that they maybe haven't had a turn yet, but if they are actually still engaged, and that's true, then fine, go with it, but go with what the table wants as well, because you can't just be like, for the sake of engagement, I'm just going to push over to you guys because they were fully engaged in the situation that was currently unfolding in front of them.
That's a very good point. Yeah, and I'll often do that where I just, if the scene that's happening is really important, I will just tell the other players, right, give me a couple of minutes, we'll be back to you in a second, and then that gives them thinking about what they're going to do as well. So very good point. Very good point by us. I've also there's another one that I like to do during fights, right? Is that to keep a player engaged with the story, so that you really don't want to. What you want to avoid is like combat. Bizarrely, can be one of the least engaging parts of a game if it's done badly. Do you know what I mean? Because if it's just going around doing turns of hitting, marking off HP. It's in something like Hero Quest, that's fine because things die really quickly. Yep. But in something like an RPG where things can have a lot of hit points, I've often found there's a technique I learned off Brendan LaSalle, who's I think works for Goodman Games. I don't know. I think he does. But he'll do this thing where he'll try and rile players up. Right, so it could be that the monster will then, after taking an attack, if it's the next player's turn, you'd be like, and the monster starts insulting your mum. Are you going to take that shit? and then it's like that player's like, no, I'm not going to take that fucking shit. And instead of going, oh yeah, I was hitting with my short sword, you suddenly get them going, right, I'll run up, I'm going to punch him in the fucking stomach, and then uppercut him with my sword. And it's like, there we go. It's the same fucking action, but at the end of the day, you're like,
you're giving them a reason to be annoyed at them, like a bit more so than what they think their character would be at the time, but perhaps it makes sense because
you're getting them to hate the monsters a little bit or whatever, like riling them up. It could be sort of in any way where you could get it to where if it's just a bar scene and the guys are just like, right, hey, I'm eating dinner. And it's like, it's dull. You get the other two players at the table, the other three players, they're just well, one guy's making a really elaborate order and trying to get all the bar wenches, right? The other players just want to eat their dinner and go to bed. You just roll them up a little bit, get them into it. Maybe somebody passes their table and spills their drink and refuses to pay for it. Maybe somebody comes up and goes, yeah, you think you can handle your drink, can you? Yeah, you fucking can.
Well, it's got one like, even for instance, I just thought of it now in terms of if there's a scene being played out in a bar, for instance, and then a particular player is currently gathering information, and the other players don't seem too fussed about doing anything. Therefore, they seem not that engaged. Potentially, you could just be like, oh well, you see an altercation happening in the corner. A woman's getting rowdy and squaring up to some bloke, and she's just fashed a drink all over his face or something like that, and it's like, are you going to respond to that, or what are you going to do? And then they might start getting involved in that scene.
Or yeah, exactly. Then they've got something. Like if they're just sitting there, like just give them something to do. Something that makes them feel something. If they've got nothing to do in the pub that night and just want to go to bed, feel it out. But at the end of the day, you're never just going to go to the pub and see nothing.
And also, they're always going to have a response to what you say, because you could play that scene in front of them and they just go, yeah, well, I tell you what, I'm actually going to ignore that. I'm going to finish my drink, go up to bed, and make sure I get a really good rest for the night. But that means that they are thinking forwards about their character.
Yeah, they're still engaging because they're doing something. You know what I mean?
So it's just like you just don't want to miss anyone out in that regard if they're not being involved.
I think it's like it's about not being boring, isn't it? It's like each scene has got to be colourful, right? I don't think. I don't think like go on about each scene and make every scene fucking impactful, but add a little bit of colour. Don't go on about it for ages, obviously, because that's another tip. Don't go on about it for ages, right? Descriptions, just give what you need.
Well, it's like that description with the bar fight, for instance. To go, you see in a corner someone spills a drink over them and they start getting rowdy to each other. How do you respond? And that's it.
It might even be nothing. It might turn out that they just shake hands and go, "Oh God, I'm so sorry."
Yeah.
But the player might go, "Oh, I want to sit there and watch." But you're giving them something. If you see them completely unengaged, just go, "You go to the pub. What do you want to do?" And they go, "I don't know." Just go, "All right. Well, you're sitting there and this, and this."
Yeah.
And another tip I actually had was like I said, is describe what's going on, but only what's relevant, right? Because you can get boring real fucking
I'll tell
fast.
you what, the relevancy is so key because, and before you carry on, Harrison, because we've been trapped in someone allowing us full agency to explore a dead end, basically, and it is the most demeaning thing I think that could happen. It's like a genuine half an hour of actual time spent on something that was pointless in game.
That our characters might have realised was fucking pointless had it just been had the relevant information been given to us.
Like if you're playing a video game and that happens, you're playing a video game and that happens. But when you're role playing tabletop RPG, you do expect to be told, by the way, guys, this seems like a pointless effort because you realise X, Y, Z, and it's just like it's pointless doing this.
Right, and I'm going to say it, right? It was during the Icewind Dale campaign that we played, and it was there was a dock, and we went there, and we've been dealing with ice giants for quite some time. That was the campaign baddie, right? And we get to this dock, and there is an ice ship there, right? Now, it was we realised that there's got to be a clue on that fucking boat, right? Yeah. There's got to be a fucking clue on that boat. It's an ice ship, right?
Yeah, it's described to us in quite detail as well.
Massive detail. We spent half an hour fucking around on it. I need to find out that it wasn't relevant, to the point where this is the thing that will actively disengage your players from the game, because if they realise that the GM might just pull out at any point, "Oh yeah, you go on there and it's completely fucking pointless." Why doesn't he just go, "Okay, passive perception, you look at the ice boat and you realise there's nobody on it." If he didn't want us fucking around on the boat...
Perception.
Yeah, exactly.
That's literally...
If he didn't want us on that boat fucking around wasting time, all he needed to do was just say that. Even if one of us goes, we got to search the boat, mate. We got to search the fucking boat, and he could just say,
"Okay, you search the boat, nothing's there."
Yeah, you have a look on it, and you can see that there's nothing there. It's basically melting. End of story. And I feel like as well, there's the opposite. My son is in the kitchen at the moment. I believe my wife is making him lunch, and he's asking for lunch. You'll get used to it, listeners. Yeah, like describing what is relevant, right? Is and I said this before. If I tell you go into the mayor's house, he's an incredibly rich man, and his room is lavish in every way. That's enough.
Yep.
You don't have to describe how fucking nice his chair is. And if, say, for example, you do want to describe how nice his chair is, well, it probably should be relevant to the plot. Perhaps he's got. If the man's sitting there in a gold-plated chair, something's up, and that's relevant.
Or you do it with either part of the plot or for a rare joke, where, for instance, you do a monologue for half a minute longer than it should be. But emphasis on half a minute, not.
But that would be kind of funny.
Yeah, and then you just go at the end, and then it's pointless, and he just goes to sleep. Something like that, where it's just like.
Well, I mean, speaking about that, there was a one where you used the game mechanics as a joke once in an actual funny way that didn't
yeah.
actually affect the game, but it was like, it was just funny. It was there to be funny, and it was like we went down this mine, went all through the mine shaft,
Yeah,
killing.
probably like dungeon crawl type situation.
Got to the boss, and then afterwards, obviously, James he didn't want us to go back through the dungeon because that would just be boring, right? So he just went, oh, and you see a massive lit up sign saying, here's the lift. You didn't notice on your way in, but that's just a joke. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
and then
like,
you
okay,
get
that
up
is relevant
easy.
information, but I thought it was really funny. And you were using the game mechanics as a joke, but then also describing exactly what is relevant. Like if you go into a pub, right? And you say, oh, it looks like it's sort of a middle-class pub. The tables are a lot nicer here, and the bar person's wearing a tie. That's it. That's all you need. If you go on for it any longer than you need to, that's when players are going to get fucking bored. So just describe what's relevant. I mean, there is a point where it can, like reading Temple of Elemental Evil, some of the descriptions in there are pages long, right?
Well, this is the thing as well. You can just say, players of if you've really got an eclectic group of players at your table, you can go, okay, what kind of descriptions do you want? Do you want in-depth ones so you can see what I'm seeing, or do you want hard and fast so you can just get on with the gameplay?
I often would go for the latter, but yeah. Exactly. Yeah, ask people as well, and I think. The trouble is with I also think like describing everything in this big flowery medieval way, where you try to make everything sound really intellectual, is also a way sometimes to disengage players. Maybe the way people speak or the way you describe them, like he's wearing a leather jerkin or whatever, like that's fine. But like, if I just tell you, I instead of going, the town itself would dwarf even the biggest cities known to man, I just go, it's fucking massive. There's buildings everywhere. The streets are fucking crowded with people. That's enough. It's good enough.
Yep.
Just don't be boring. Don't be boring about it. In addition to this, I also think that sometimes people can get disengaged, right? We had that bloke, do you remember he messaged in about his Call of Cthulhu players who didn't take notes?
Yeah.
And I think it's sometimes hard for players to engage when they don't necessarily know exactly what's going on. And my thing is that I add gentle reminders into my descriptions, right? Just little ones. So I'll just be, let's say for example, you've been tracking down this bloke that, I don't know, killed somebody or whatever, right? You end up at his house, then you end the session, right? Or you take a break. When you come back, you be like, instead of just saying, right, you're outside this massive house of this guy, insert name here, what do you want to do? You go, right, you're outside of the house of the man that killed so-and-so, and it looks like he's gotten rich off of his decision, or something, just a reminder. Just add it in there. Just be like, when you confront the boss, you be like, you're looking at the man who killed your friend. Do you know what I mean? Or you're looking at the man who has stolen all the gold from the vaults of wherever. You know what I mean? Like, just add little descriptions in there to keep players engaged and remind them why they give a shit about this situation.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally they would remember all the time, but people just don't. They're complicated games with a lot happening, so at the end of the day, they're just not always going to. So just adding a little reminder like that also bakes into the thing of trying to rile the players up in certain ways.
Well, I've got a good point that I wrote down, and we've kind of touched upon it already, but it's also to try and I feel like it's more of a shock tactic used on purpose, but can actually be used to your advantage as a technique, which is to air quotes pick on players. So during whatever's going on, during a scene of something, you just be like, all right, so what are you doing? Just all right, so what's your character doing then, eh? We've just entered this and you've said, like, you're not saying this out loud, but they've just entered something, that person's not paying attention, so you just go, all right, so what are you doing then?
Honestly, it's a good tactic. I mean, because I do it often, and the reason is because right? Yeah. If somebody's sitting there and they look like they're spaced out a little bit, if there's the constant looming threat that they might be picked on any minute, they're always going to be thinking about what their character might be doing, right? And it doesn't have to be aggressive, but I mean, often if the character's not, a lot of the onus actually is on the players to pay attention, but keeping them engaged is the job of the GM, and doing that. If I just say, right, what are you doing at this time? Then they know. they know that they should be paying fucking attention, and they will pay attention.
It just means that from that point onwards, I mean, and even we've had it at a table. It's just like, oh, you got to pay attention, man. You know, just be like, okay, so you won't pay attention, fine, but please start paying attention. And then it's just like, here's the recap. 3 seconds later, that's the recap done.
Because I think that paying attention and being engaged, to an extent, they're very, very linked.
Yep.
But keeping a player engaged is using these tactics to make them pay attention as well. It's like one leads into the other. But yes, that's a very, very good point. Also, have a speaker with very loud, jarring noises on it. You know, like if you notice that there's a lull, a very, very loud explosion sound is really gonna fuck everyone up. Know what I mean?
Yes, mate.
I also thought, probably my last tip is you got to, and this is like also just a general DM tip, but in terms of keeping people engaged, be the player's biggest fan. Like the players and the characters, right? You wanna, if.
We spoke about it just a moment ago. The positive encouragement.
Yes, we went for a break and we were talking about this. You've got to be the player's biggest fan. Like James was speaking about this. It's like recently, Sean's character, he's been through a fucking horrible time in MCC. I mean, not my fault, right? I'm rolling everything out in the open, and I'll go right. He's gonna hit. I roll. It's Sean every fucking time for some reason. I don't know what is wrong with my dice, but he's been through some bad shit. He's lost some of his better mutations. He's gained a lot of defects. He's nearly died several times and has gone down a lot of times. And it's like there was a point where when the guys were fighting the cactus thing, and you know he mind blasted it and then chucked the rifle over to the other guy. Sean sort of celebrated and went, "Yes, I did something." Because he spent a lot of the fights on the ground or just being absolutely destroyed, and it was like, at this point, I was like, I needed to tell Sean like, no, you contributed in a lot of meaningful ways, and here's how.
Yeah.
And it's like both being a fan of Unit, despite the fact that he's gone through a shit time and hasn't been necessarily as effective as the other players. There are situations in which the other players would have died if not for his character, and I don't think he necessarily realised it.
He's getting mistaken by a lot of what's happening because of the mutations and the situations we've got ourselves in. A lot of what, say for instance,
a lot of bad luck.
Yeah, a lot of bad luck. But say for instance, what say me and JT have contributed. They've been quite grandiose because of the situation. So Sean's contribution, where it hasn't say popped off how he's wanted to, has been a small success, but it's still a success.
But that's heavily. Well, because when you look at the characters, you've got your electrical generation. It's not a balanced game, right?
No.
And the electrical generation is very powerful. The fucking radiation generation is very powerful. Sean's got he can extend his arms 15 feet, so he can attack people from 3 squares away.
Yeah, or he can get big or small.
He can get big or small,
but sometimes they're good and bad pop-offs, like that time when he wanted to get a little bit bigger, but then shot through the roof of the shopping mall.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of situations like that, and it's like, well, but he has contributed in a lot of ways. Like if we were to look at it like from an MMO point of view, his fucking character, he's the damage per second guy. The other guys are the tanks, right? They're doing the big hits, the things like this. But Sean is the one, he's taking out all of the little monsters, and he's killing people left, right, and centre. He's a valuable member of the team. But I think sometimes when you spend a whole fight, like in the facility one, where he was on the ground for the entire fight, because he got.
It's like when my Belinda character from Solomon Kane never once managed to do the entangle roll.
He never did a successful spell until the last fight.
Yeah.
And she was a witch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like that was it. But I guess trying to make the characters, if it's not trying to make them feel as if they had a meaningful contribution, but it's bigging them up when they do, being their biggest fan. Like I like Unit, Sean's character a lot because he's funny and he's got personality and he's useful in a fight. Not only that, but his powers are weird and make him, and it's like being the players and characters' biggest fans means that you always want to see what they do next.
The thing is that I feel like because Sean in this setting, I think this may be something he can't do his typical. I'm going to get some shaving foam and then put some hair in it and then burn it and then make like a shaving foam bomb out of.
Sean loves to make strange items.
Yeah, so I feel like in this universe, in this game, that ability is kind of lost a bit.
I think what he has to remember, though, and this is like, I know it's about a specific person at this point, but is that in this universe, he is the weird item.
Yeah.
The mutations can be used in all manner of creative ways, and I think he really is sort of starting to settle into that. But it's like, yeah, I guess for a little while, maybe I needed to be. I think I did a fairly decent job of bigging up when he did something cool. But it's like, yeah, it's that being a fan and the positive encouragement needs to be there. And I feel like sometimes when you're just being like, that was fucking awesome, like if you've got those moments, that really helps. But it can seem patronising, and I think things like luck and bennies and things like this really help.
Well, if we take the spotlight away from Sean for a minute and just talk about players at the table in general, for instance, if someone accomplishes something and then their celebration isn't sort of that great, and they're sort of like, oh yeah, I did that, I'd be like, no mate, like that was fantastic. Like, you do understand what that means for the rest of the players, right? And then it's sort of that kind of positive encouragement and reinforcement and all that stuff will actually make them think, oh, actually that was way better than I thought it was, because they perhaps lost sight of the bigger picture.
Yeah, good point.
So it's that kind of stuff where if you have the ability to you can have the ability to get the players at the table more engaged, because other people would also go, actually, yeah, that was a great thing that just happened.
Do you know one of the best ways to do this, though, is when everyone has a story like this, where the players will come in to your very cleverly made encounter and they will just fuck it up in a second, right? And you're like, it's the whole just tearing the page out your book, screwing it up and putting it in the bin. Or like just going, right, guess I don't need those notes then. That took me weeks. And every time you do that, like, and honestly, it's genuine, but every time you do that, the players will just be like, yes!
It's like, fuck you.
I was talking to a friend of the show, Gary McCallum, recently, because he's been playing in a DCC game for a while.
Boy!
And he was saying that the GM was really pissed off because there was an encounter with some wolves in the woods, which doesn't sound that great anyway, but like, the wizard cast a sleep spell, rolled really high, all the wolves went to sleep, and then they just walked around just executing them. Right? So that vegan player would have a very big problem with. By executing, I meant sent them off to a nice sleep.
Yeah.
But yeah, and he said the GM was like kind of annoyed, and I was like, but why? Like, if you're your character's biggest fans, they've just fucked an encounter that could have killed them. That's cool.
That's true, yeah.
And like just being like, fucking amazing move and applauding the players is a lot more engaging than being like, oh, you fucked my encounter
Well,
up.
think
like,
about the amount of times we did that to Sean. I mean, he was GMing.
oh my god.
And we managed to, and it was luck but careful planning. Because we were so engaged, we managed to...
And Sean is great at that as well, because he sees the amusement in when we managed to filter around an encounter. And like, I remember he had a whole night of Call of Cthulhu gaming planned once, and we solved it in an hour, and he was just like, you guys are fucking amazing. And I was just like, see, that's the attitude you need to have going in, right?
Yeah.
That's way more engaging than being annoyed that the players aren't getting your great story, because to be honest, your great story is made by the players, right?
Yep.
And keeping them engaged and involved in it is so fucking important. And yeah, I like it when players find clever ways around shit, mostly,
Yeah.
but sometimes not.
I've still got a couple of notes on how to keep the player engaged, and one of them, players engaged. One of them is if there's a lull at the table, we've definitely done this before. It's like breathe a bit of fresh air into the players at the table, go for a break away from the table, even if you're not smokers or whatever, just be like, all right, cool, everyone to sort of stand up, stretch your legs, come to the kitchen, make a drink or something like that, or just move away, or just stand up and sort of talk about what has currently happened in the session.
Yes.
And what I plan on doing next, because then that will refocus people. Because sometimes it's just like say for instance, I've done it where I haven't necessarily just disengaged on purpose, but I've suddenly got confused, and then I've lost track of what's going on.
Well, this is what I was going to say as well, because like I've definitely done that before, where I just need to take a quick breather and for you just to go, right, so can you just describe to me what's going on again?
Yeah.
Right. Then you're not interrupting the game. You're trying to re-engage with it. And if you can see that happening, just do exactly what you said. Take a break and just you tell your players, right. So this is the situation. What do you think you guys are going to do?
Yeah, because it means you kind of take the pressure off for a bit, because sometimes maybe at the gaming table there's pressure to consistently interact.
Yes, and with that, then you just go, right, well, look, I can tell you're thinking about it, so here's what's the situation. Let's have a little breather and let's talk about what you guys want to do. Yeah. And actually, I often do that when it gets to like a sort of an apex type moment where it's like, what, shit's about to pop off. Let's have a regroup and talk about shit.
Yeah, and that's actually a very good moment to do it, even if your players are engaged, because then that means that they're more likely to remain engaged afterwards because they've got a breather from the intensity of what's happening, and also a bit of the ability to kind of do some calculations like they would if they were playing a video game.
Absolutely,
thinking, press pause and go, right, how am I going to tackle this?
What the fuck am I going to do? Yeah, exactly. Good point. I've got one last one actually that I missed earlier, but it was be energetic. I can't stress this enough.
Well, I mean, that goes without saying, isn't it? If you're sitting there going, so I'm going to just...
So you hit him, yeah, well done. Next turn, Sean, it's going to be you. Yep, okay.
James, it's you, yeah.
This is a game all about imagination, but you shouldn't have to imagine the energy. Do you know what I mean? I mean, like, fucking... I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say more is always better than less when it comes to energy. Even if you're so energetic it's annoying, that's better than you be boring.
Well, we've done it so many times, I think, at the table. Every single one of us has gotten really, really hyper about the situation we're in, and 9 times out of 10 we just go, oh my god, I'm so sorry.
Well, it's like the other day when you had sex with Tobuscus's bin because you got a good roll.
Oh, yeah.
So James rolled really well on a mutation roll.
I jumped out.
Got so excited that then he started humping his pin.
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny as shit. But yeah, I think go more is better than less, and I'll even do it to the point where it's over the top, right? You don't want to be to the point where you're really cringy to where you're speaking about it in this fantastical Shakespeare way. But like, actually, even that would be pretty cool. But I often do the thing where if I roll a really good hit against the player, and Sean gets annoyed by this, but I go, yeah, like this right in somebody's face. And also, like, I often do things where I go really over the top. Like, I'd be like, right, the robot comes up and he fires his chain gun at you and cuts through you like the worm you are, or something like this. Even that's better because it's like, yeah, you're joking about it, but it's fucking funny, and the players will hate it, especially if you get enthusiastic about you killing them. They'll just be like, not for real, but they'll be like, fuck you, I'm gonna fuck you up.
And also, it's like what we touched upon earlier about the positive encouragement and all that shit. It's like when you're celebrating something, like we often, any critical kind of success, everyone's like, foo, 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 like that.
Yeah,
and then they
totally.
sort of like, everyone kind of gets really hype about the role being so good, and we're like, oh yes, whoa.
But it's like celebrating when the players are doing something good. Yeah, we go mental, man. Like, have all the memes going on, fucking sound effects.
Oh, mate, we were doing some roaring voices the other day at Tobuscus's house.
we got
told to be quiet, several times.
Somebody got all... in HeroQuest, you have to get skulls to get damage. I think somebody rolled all skulls, and then we were going, yes! But I think even in a serious game, that's important, because you have to acknowledge that you are players playing the game as well as the game itself. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're sitting there, even during a serious game, if you kill one of the bad guys' cronies that's been trying to fuck you up, and everyone starts cheering at the table, it's not taking away from the game; it's adding to it.
Yeah, because you get to celebrate as the party.
One might argue that having sex with a bin mid-game is a little bit silly. But actually, it's James being excited about a roll, making everyone laugh, and therefore excited about the roll as well.
Opening the bin lid, smashing it on my plate. No.
And now it's just like...
there's little bins expected in about 8 months' time.
But Sean's been pretty on the ball with it. You know, what annoys me is usually when it comes to the meme keyboard and like somebody's celebrating a crit. I don't care how you do it. You could let off fireworks. It'll be fucking awesome. But Sean will do it with the meme keyboard but he's got an unbelievably long password on his phone.
Yeah.
And always I see someone crit and he's like trying to just quickly scramble it into his phone. But then the last session we were playing HeroQuest, he was on the ball as well.
Yeah.
It just had such weird sounds.
He had some really good ones that popped off at perfect moments as well.
Yeah. All right, well, that's it for my advice. Have you got any more?
I've got one last one left. And it's not that we currently use this in efforts to re-engage people, but it can be used, I think, in efforts to have certain people who may be not as engaged as you'd like them to, which is give them specific roles. Like, for instance, every now and then, depending on what's going on in the party, one of us typically nowadays ends up being the party's accountant, the bank.
Yes, and listener of the show, Conrad, he does this.
Yeah.
And he, even to the point where... So when I was playing in Sean's campaign, I know that because I'm always in GM mode and my mind's going 10 miles a minute, I can be overbearing in a game and try to take the spotlight too often. Now, I know that any normal rational adult would just go, well, don't do that then. And it's like, well, it's not that simple because I'm an idiot. So I was in charge of the music.
Yeah.
And that meant that I was engaged by listening all the time, trying to pick relevant tracks for what's going on. It's not like where I'm completely distracted with it. I mean, it would be like more like I'll change the music when we get into a fight. Put on cool boss music for a boss.
Travel music,
this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And so it's like every half an hour or so, I'm selecting a new playlist, putting on cool music that gets everyone G'd up as well.
Yeah.
And Conrad, he does this where it'll be like, okay, you're going to be handing out bennies for tonight. You're going to be handing out the initiative cards, or you're the accountant.
Tracker.
Kill tracker,
That'd be a good one to start imposing on certain people. Like, you're tracking the kills this session. You're tracking the enemies and
if you're talking,
or something like
if
that.
we're talking old school gaming as well, I mean, you could have somebody be the map drawer, somebody be the accountant, somebody to just say, right, you're gonna need to take some notes, so just take a couple of notes here and there as we play. Give someone a role. That's such a good idea. We don't do it as much. In fact, I almost never do it, but
well,
maybe I should.
We don't necessarily need to.
Not necessarily.
We're fortunate,
but I do like it when I give jobs to players, but then it also means I have to give them an extra penny or whatever. I don't like doing that because you're scum.
Fuck you, man.
Yep. But no, that is a very, very, very good suggestion. One that I don't think is utilised enough. Well, that's it. Those are the tips for keeping your players engaged. I would also, if there's anything that we've missed, send it in and we'll read it out in the feedback, because I'm sure there is something we've missed.
Well, yeah, just give us tips as well, because like...
Oh, God knows I need them. My players are idiots.
Yeah, we are, it's true.
Yep. Fact.
Fact.
Yeah, alright, well that's it. Shall we do some questions?
Yeah? You got any? What's 1 + 1? Nothing.
Brilliant.
In the future, you will be able to send a letter or parcel from anywhere on the planet. This, sir, is the Electro Letter.
First one, this is Electro Letters, where we take your correspondence. Bear in mind, you've got to go onto the Discord. It's in the description for all these podcasts.
Yeah, we've kind of moved away from any other avenue of it, and just
because nobody uses Facebook anymore, and I don't use Twitter, so. So have a look in the description. Go onto the Discord if you want to submit questions, or email us on 3trpgpod@gmail.com. Just figure it out, alright? Fuck's sake. Pistachio, Cultist of Sean, he says, question, do you twats ever buy RPGs? That's not a word. RPG books that for whatever reason you never get around to using, whether you think it makes a nice collectible or perhaps you can't convince your mates to dig into it. What's the one neglected game currently sitting on your shelf that you would like to crack open?
Harris has done this a million times.
All the time.
And to be honest, he's bought them and sold them on, and we've never played them ever.
Well, because the thing is, sometimes I'll buy something and then read it and feel like there's another system that I know does it better. Or something like this. But yeah, I do it all the fucking time. I do it all the time.
What have you got on your shelf that you can see right now that we haven't played
yet? But this is one I definitely am going to play. The only thing is that, Aces and Eights is my current one, which looks amazing. And it's a very simulation-heavy cowboy game. It's essentially that one has been neglected on my shelf for a while, simply because when the new Deadlands came out, I ran an entire campaign in that, and I thought best have a little bit of a break before we get back to something Western themed.
It came out and it overtook Aces of Eight.
Yeah, well, that was really why, and it happens to me all the time. I'm lucky because our players are really willing to try anything. Sometimes that doesn't work out. For example, when we decided to do a bum conga.
Oh yeah, yummy.
But very painful. But
Keep up.
I mean, I got a lot of those. I mean, but then I don't like reading on a screen, so I never really get to the point. Like, I know a lot of people, they'll pirate a book have a look at it, see if it's something they're willing to do. But I don't like reading off the screen, so often I'll buy something thinking that it sounds like the next best thing since like just sliced bitches, and then I'm like, well, it's not for me. But I think at the moment I've whittled down my collection to the point where it's all stuff I really want to use.
Yeah.
But like East Texas University, I've ran it twice ever, and they were one-shots, and I've had it for years. But I know at some point in my life I would get round to running it. But yeah, it's just sat there because it's just the right time hasn't come up. Because I have to be really enthused about an idea to do a campaign of it. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise,
well, that's the whole thing about what we're saying. If you're not passionate about the game you're running, how can you keep the players engaged?
Yeah, another good point. Yeah, how about you, James?
Me, I've got loads of stuff, mate. Absolutely tons. I buy so many RPG books.
James is not he's more of a player.
Yeah, I'm definitely a player. Although I do have Tiny Dungeon.
I really, really want you to run that. I really do.
Yeah, that was a wonderful gift.
Because I know that I know that you were a bit hesitant to run another campaign because there were some things in your first one that you've felt didn't go as well as you wanted them to, but then it was your first ever one, and it was really fun. Like, there were some bits that were like, okay, he's trying to fuck us, but then, but other than that, like, all of the bits where we were doing stuff were so much fun. Like, that dungeon crawl that we talked about with the mine
and
was
the
really
lift
fucking
at the
good.
end.
And that lift at the end. And then also there was a bit where we fought someone in a bar, and it was one of the most tense fights I've ever seen in a game.
Yeah, because they went underneath. And
Arena match that was fucking awesome. I mean, it was great, man. Well, I think just get back into it and run like a 5-shot or something like this, like just to get started.
I'll have to start planning one, and then eventually in 1 or 2 years, when we get to our 10-year anniversary, maybe I can run some.
Yes, see, that would be good. Yeah, and Tiny Dungeon's a really great game as well. Like, I mean, we played it a little bit during the Cyberpunk campaign, which is insane. But yeah, it's a really, really great game. I think you would love it. And also, it's made for shorter campaigns. So I think yeah, just get back into it, mate.
Crack it out, bruv.
Alyssa Tiddlethid loves cock. Which that's the name, by the way. He says, which option is the best? Eat a meal before the game, eat a meal during the game, eat a meal after the game.
Before.
Yes.
1,000%. Or no, or after. It depends what time of day you're doing it. But typically ours is in the evening. Always eat your meal before. We, for a little while, did a bit of eat during. And I'm not going to lie, I think we absolutely detest that now.
I fucking hate it, and I always have. And I like, no offence to anyone that's done it at our table, but offence though. Well, he asked the question because he says he always plays at lunch, which is 11 to 3, or 4 to 8, which is dinner. So you really got no option. But here's my opinion on it, right? If you're playing,
make sure, right? If it's lunch, two points. One, make sure that whatever your lunch is ready, available, easy to eat. 2,
nothing smelly.
Take a break in order to consume it.
Do it on a break. Yeah, well, here's the thing, right? Say, for example, the few times where I haven't eaten, because we play at 7 every week, right? Which is just after dinner time. Sean eats his dinner at 5 o'clock, which is fucked up. But
hey, that's early, man. I thought I was
so
early. Was early. Mine's like between 6 and 7 is mine.
Mine's usually 7 or 8. Oh. But right, the few times where I haven't eaten dinner before I've come to the game, right? Now we always actually meet up and have dinner at the pub before we go into the game. But before, when like if I hadn't eaten, I would get meal deal from Sano's or Tesco's or something like this.
Yeah, something
and just
that's
get
like easy to munch.
Yeah, a sandwich, something like this. Sean, what he always does is he's just, for some reason, once a week, when he hasn't eaten dinner, he just can't go without having a massive hot meal. It's like, but a sandwich, a packet of crisps, and a nice drink, that's enough to keep you going for the game. Just have that. Something not invasive. But he'll eat a fucking pizza, and he's never paid for his own heating, right? Because he lives in a share house currently. And he, before that, lived at another share house, and then our mum's, right? So my point is, he's never paid for heating, and when he always comes in and he goes, "Can I use your oven?" It's like, that is speaking as a man who's never had to pay for it, just putting it on for a pizza everywhere. It's so fucking annoying. Especially when I've just eaten my dinner, I've turned that oven off, and then to heat it all the way back up with all that energy. And then like the pizza's such a big thing at a table. Yeah. You look how space is such a premium on our relatively small tables, right? And it's like then you got pizza there, and I always find fucking old ass cheese grease all over his character sheet.
Yeah, it is a bit annoying when that kind of stuff happens.
And Ryan, one of our old players, used to do it as well.
Yeah, but he'd hold his plate the whole time.
and he would offer slices around. That's it. That's important. That butters me up.
Yeah. If you're going to do it like that, if it's your house, you can you use your own oven. You're allowed with our permission, but it's like you've got to just do it in a respectful way, because you can't just be like, mate, I'm eating dinner. It's like, okay, but we had planned to game.
This is gaming time.
Yeah.
Have a fucking sandwich and take bites of it while you play.
We're quite militant with our gaming time.
Yeah.
If it gets interrupted, you can fuck off.
You know what it is though, is that we have one day a week where we game, right? And it should be like it's a social thing, but first and foremost it's a gaming social thing, right? It's both those things at the same fucking time.
We're contributing to a story that we're creating
and all part of.
Yeah.
And I feel like then if a player's then having to fuck off to try and cut up a pizza and all of this. Now I've got to give a massive shout out to Owen Lean, because he did it the best fucking way, which is where when the campaign that I played in he would invite everyone round to his 2 hours early for dinner. Now the idea is that means everyone's eating. Happy days, right? And then we start the game in at 7, and the implication being that if you're not coming to his for dinner, eat something on the way. Simple as. And then he would often actually make cooked snacks to have at the table, which is pretty fucking nice, like nachos, chicken wings, or something like this.
Chicken wings.
At the time,
I'll tell you what's difficult to do that though. It'd be like chicken wings. Yeah, if everyone's got their own personal bib or fucking cloth, because imagine mucking up.
That is the worst gaming food, surely. Chicken
well, actually,
wings.
I find that there's a couple that are quite bad, and this is no mean.
Oh wait! Hold it. We've got a question actually on this specific thing. I think we've answered that question, but yeah, the Greg man. He says, in this vein, what foods are prohibited at your table and why? Noise? ? Too greasy? Too messy? He's got another question as well, but we'll get to that. And anything that involves a dip.
Oh my God, Harrison, you took it out of my fucking head.
Oh yeah.
Like, this is the thing, right? And obviously this isn't poking Sean, but he loves nachos and a salsa dip. But
salsa's too thin, man.
But my biggest gripe, and I know why he does it, but my biggest gripe is, you know when you take the lid off, and then what he does is he puts the lid upside down
and then
uses
the
it
jar.
as a coaster, puts the jar on top of it, so the jar is just sitting in the salsa, when the jar could have either just sat on the table.
Because there's salsa on the underneath of the lid. And then he moves the fucking jar. It goes on a sheet. There's fucking tomato juice all over it. It's gross, man. And but he's not the only person to have ever done it at the table.
No. He just does it more regularly.
I understand that maybe there are some foods that for a one shot. Then in that case, I would approve, like more elaborate foods, because it's more of an event, right? You're playing a one-off game and everyone's supposed to be excited and have fun. So like when Phil bought the chicken nuggets, or if you did have chips and dip, it doesn't matter. We're chucking away these character sheets afterwards.
Yeah. But if
it's a more beer and pretzel-y game.
Yeah. Like that stuff is fine. I feel like, so in terms of prohibited items, it's definitely pungent food.
Yeah, chips and dip. I think the most pungent, the highest level of pungosity is sour cream and chive Pringles, right? Everyone can handle that. Maybe you don't like them.
Oh no, I love them. They're great.
Yeah, but like...
do you remember those? Sorry, those cheesy things I had there that near Christmas. Those cheeselets, but they're with trees. They're treeslets, and they're like, oh mate, they're really pongy. And I had to put a lid on them.
I don't remember that at all. No, sorry.
They really offended your nostrils.
I was
super cheesy.
I was at a game once where this is at Shake On. This is a long time ago now. Now I was sat next to and I can't really blame her. I can't probably even say this, but she was turbo autistic, non-verbal autistic. And I had gone to the shop and I had bought a bunch of snacks for the table, right? And I bought some sour cream and chive pretzels. She ate all of them, and throughout the entire game was also farting quite hideously. Now, the sour cream smell, I think, is quite a pleasant one, but mixed with the 4-hour-long farts of somebody that was eating them... Not nice at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think anything smelly, anything that can spill, I think as dips go, hummus is acceptable because it's almost
really
solid.
Viscous,
yeah. Yeah. Fuck. I mean, and greasy shit. Like, what was it the other day where? Oh god, I really don't want to. Okay, I'm not going to say his name. Somebody who isn't Sean at the game. Like, so Tobuscus was running us through Hero Quest, and it's his brand new, £100 pristine fucking box set, and he's a big collector type guy, so he likes to keep things in that way. And I think somebody had food all over their hands and went to pick up the dice and roll them, and I was like, "Just got your greasy ass fucking hands there, mate."
Oh yeah.
It just really icked me out. I'm like, if that was my fucking thing, and then I'd have to open the box and it smells of like fucking finger grease.
Oh, that's so
Not nice. Not nice.
But yeah, just so grease. Nothing.
What about if
greasy.
somebody brings fast food to a game? Is that acceptable? Like a bag of McDonald's?
It depends what it is.
Mm.
Like you.
If it was Five Guys, definitely not, because that's too greasy.
It's too greasy, too drippy. If it was a Papa John's pizza, they're just slathered in grease. If it's
Same goes
Domino's-
for Pizza Hut.
And I think Domino's, sometimes they're quite greasy, but they tend to be.
But do you ever remember when you were hungover in a game and you ordered a large pizza just for yourself, and were like trying to recover from the hangover?
Yeah, mate.
I think Domino's can be acceptable because it's not quite as greasy. But I think also McDonald's is kind of the same.
It depends what it is. If it's a burger or chips, you can get away with sort of munching on that as long as you degrease your hands each time. So
Have some degrease wipes.
And but if, for instance, you had KFC, which would be great, but you couldn't really eat chicken at the table.
Well, that's easily solved though, because KFC tends to like the greasy chicken comes in a bucket. So what you do is you just lean over like a bird, eat it only with your mouth, just have grease all over your face, and then you're fine. You're not touching anything with your greasy hands unless you're kissing the other players. In which case, the RPGs aren't really the point at that point.
Yeah. So super crummy stuff should try and be like
Crummy stuff or like bad stuff.
yeah.
You crummy the Greg Man, he also has another question. He says, what is one genre that is underrepresented in RPGs? Pornography.
I was just about to say that.
No, that is overrepresented, if anything.
It is disgusting.
Um,
No.
I feel like there's a lot of mystery games that are always supernatural. So, like Kids on Bikes, Tales from the Loop, Call of Cthulhu. It's always mystery games that are supernatural. I mean, something like Happy Valley. Or like, a police procedural. I know there's one in Savage Worlds called The Thin Blue Line, I think it's called, but I don't know if it's investigative as much as it is shooting people. But yeah, I think that's an underrepresented genre that's not done enough. Just straight up police procedurals or like investigative games that aren't
How
supernatural.
And I don't know how.
Soap opera.
Yeah, that's a good one. Or psychological thriller. How would you?
What's a good example of one of those? Silence of the Lambs, does that count?
I'd say so. I actually watched that last night. Fiona hadn't seen it.
That's weird.
Oh no.
That's a weird coincidence.
Yeah.
That's a great film.
Yeah, it is.
You're not looking at the whole picture, Clarice. Yeah, I think psychological thriller. That's a good one.
I mean, it's hard to represent them in an RPG. I can see why, but at the same time, it isn't because.
Yeah, but then I don't know. Like I say, Prison Break. That's a thriller. That would be fucking great as an RPG.
Yeah.
Although it's not a very good series. It's one I like, but it's not very good.
It's all about escaping, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to go with that then. I'm going to go with crime drama and reality TV. Because I fucking love reality TV.
Oh my god! Imagine if you got to play 90 Day Fiance, the RPG.
Oh my god. Well, no, I have seriously thought about doing Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
No, you have, because this is years old. That thought.
Yeah. I've definitely mentioned it more than once.
Yeah.
But it's because I think it would be really great. Because
Play the Housewives.
Yes, exactly.
And all the shit that's going on.
Yeah, and
Actually, have you watched
all of the drama.
Do you watch the series You? Because
No.
that's quite good in terms of if you've seen it and how you could apply that kind of stuff to your RPG.
I might watch that then.
Yeah.
Well, because I had two ideas with that where I was like, I really wanted to do Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, but then some circumstances have to everyone that's like crazy. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Well, yeah.
either that or just have it as, because the drama's like ridiculous. I mean, loads of them are like alcoholics, drug addicts, things like this. But what was I'm going to sound like such a dick here, but what's great about Real Housewives of Beverly Hills is that it's a show that I would never watch on my own, but as a viewing experience where you're viewing the drama with somebody else and getting to comment on it, maybe make jokes about people, this and the other. That's what makes it fun for me. If I watch it with my wife and we can go, oh, I reckon she did this because of that. Do you reckon she actually likes her? This, that, and the other. That's part of the fun of it. But what I think is great about the Beverly Hills one is that some of them are likeable, which is not something you expect. There's a door out.
Answering the door. Door.
Is that some of the characters are likeable. So fucking yeah. I mean, what would be cool is like starting out with these absolute airhead cunts that sort of all the characters love to hate and love to play, and then maybe fleshing them out to the point where you start to like them.
I feel like, at least just thinking about it immediately, I feel like it would be quite hard to get all of that, all of the drama in.
I reckon I could do it, right? To give.
You just need to present a lot of situations and you're going to take that shit. You're going to take that shit.
Yeah, and
stir the pot consistently.
I think that's what it's got to be. I mean, and also if you look at the main cast of Beverly Hills, right, there's like really the cast changes in a lot of the seasons, but the main ones then sort of a lot of the drama comes from when somebody new enters the group and they're really fucking weird, and that would be quite easy to do. Because there's one series where there's this British woman who's an absolute twat, and she's well into like witchcraft and Wicca and shit like this, and all of the girls keep laughing at her, and as a result she gets really pissed off and she goes, "Dude, ever insult my religion," and stuff like this. And like having the characters have to go navigate a party where like their husband's biggest business clients are there and this woman's being a cunt, and then you're trying to subtly get revenge. I think that'd be a hell of a lot of fun. It's like political intrigue but meaningless. It's like, do you know what I mean? I don't know. It's probably a tough one, but yeah, that is a genre that I think is underrepresented.
Your biggest challenge as a DM.
But we managed it in Tough Guys. On the downtime, it was mostly basically a soap opera.
Yeah, but that's because.
But then if the game was entirely that, it would probably suck. I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, maybe I would just go at it from the angle of like, then something wacky happens. I mean, it doesn't have to be something crazy. But it could just be that one of their neighbours' houses burns down and you suspect it's insurance fraud, and now the police have asked you to get involved. You know, something like that. I don't know. I don't fucking know. But I would love to do that. Anyway, we've spoken way too long about that. CJ, he says, serpent folk, frog people, or bug-eyed aliens for long-lost fantasy civilization. Which one would you pick?
Frog people.
Yeah, frog people, all day. Lassie, he says, opinions on Discworld, favourite books? What RPG fits best for that world? DCC Unseen University adventure where you try to climb the ranks sounds baller. Yes, it does. You read any Discworld, James?
I have not.
I have. And my favourite books are the Guards series. There was one, oh God. See, the thing is, I read them all in one big chunk, and you know what my memory is like. Really shit. There was one that was, because the Discworld books usually they've got a very good message around them, and there was one that was, whose name I forget. It was all about a political thing going on and a big war with a nation that everyone seemed to hate and think were like, they were basically a stand-in for Arabic people, and it was all about how everyone learned that they weren't savages and things like this. And that was a particularly good one, except I can't remember the fucking name. Anyway, all right, Guards is the first one, and that's very good. And yeah, DCC definitely would be up there because of how stupid the sort of and arcane and weird the fucking wizards are in Discworld. Yeah, definitely that. Ace says, did you check out Korg yet? Check out Korg. You know Korg? It's an James just did a face. It's an RPG that fits on a single card, and you can order it from this bloke's Etsy shop, I think.
Really?
Yeah, he's in the Discord. He's one of them. It looks really good. Ace has had a lot of fun playing here, and I think it's a solo RPG that you sort of play, and it will be like you roll, this event happens, see how well you do with it. I don't know much about it, but check it out, listeners. It's Korg, K-O-R-G. Nice. This is our last question here. He says, does anyone else here get internet reminiscent? I think the 80s born and maybe nerdy 70s people are the first to experience this is a thing. I feel, but I don't know if it's documented. This is kind of badly written, Ace. Like the internet has changed. It was all decentralized, free for all, where anyone could have a MySpace page, a GeoCities, host their own web page or BBS, and now it's all corporate. I'm jonesing for the old net. And now it's all corporate. I'm jonesing for the old net. Did anyone ever feel that? That feeling of Wild West exploration ended up on some random website that was just a wall of text and links that someone somewhere made. Now, I know that Ace doesn't drink, so that's not an excuse for why that was so badly written. But yes, getting back to like old school internet days. Do you miss it?
Yeah.
Same.
Everything was just more innocent.
Yeah, it was, and like in a certain way, it was just like you would ever so like you're not in any huge danger of stumbling across, say, for example, Goatsy on Facebook, right? But just stumbling across, like when it was just a good laugh, just to send somebody meat spin. Do you know what I mean? Like that, it's just classic, man.
I don't like the fact that the internet nowadays is filled with so much fake news and shit.
And it's just, there's basically only like 3 websites that everyone visits. It's like, yeah, it's dull. I mean, I knew somebody once whose only encounter with the song "You Spin Me Right Round Like a Record" was via Meatspin. I think it was, we were listening to, I think it was a Cubic, and we were listening to Absolute 80s, if I recall correctly. That came on, and he started laughing, and I was like, what's so funny? He's like, it's the Meatspin song. But yeah, no, I miss it, and it was like, I don't know, there was just a bit more of a magic to it back in the days, and it might be because we were children, but also because it was sort of new. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And one of the things I really miss is old YouTube. Like, I hate what it's become now. I absolutely hate it. Like, for example, old Angry Video Game Nerd, and the way it was produced, like, it was produced really shitly. But that was part of the charm of it, that anyone could get on there and do this, and you would really have a different caliber of stuff on the internet that you wouldn't get outside of it. Whereas now, YouTube has become either, you know, very, very long video essays, which I like, or very long documentaries about really shitty, lame subjects, or really short vlogs about people's lives. And I hate that stuff. I don't know. I miss old internet, although the speed's definitely not.
No.
Trying to read a webcomic on old internet was like really, really terrible.
Oh, that's horrible. Where you actually watch the web page loading from top to bottom.
Yeah, and then I'd literally have to look away so I didn't spoil the text for the both panels. I'd be like, yeah, he's saying the on that panel and hello on that one. It's like, yeah, awful. But I remember on the old like the old internet. I keep saying it like that, but there was a time where, for example, you would just add a stranger on AOL Instant Messenger. Like I was on, this is a fucking weird story, but I was on playing N64 online before that was a thing, because we had these emulators, and it had a sub-emulator called K-Alera, which meant you could play with randoms online, and we were playing Smash Brothers. And my emulator wasn't working turbo well and was fucking up, and I asked the guy I was playing with, it's like, so is there why does this keep happening? He's like, oh, you need this version of the ROM. And he just sat and waited on AOL Instant Messenger while it downloaded on my computer for a good 2 hours. I mean, him just chatted about games that we liked and stuff.
That's the innocence that it.
But
no
also, like,
has.
having to turn your computer on to research something. Like, now you just do it on your phone, and
you had to dedicate time to use the internet.
So it almost felt like you would get more out of it, because you'd be like, right, well, I've turned the computer on, I'm going to read about this subject for ages.
Yeah, even like MSN Messenger and stuff. You'd be like,
I met my wife on there, mate. Well, I didn't meet her on there. I met her once before, and then I asked her out a date on there.
Yeah. Well, that's how a lot of.
Well, on Facebook nowadays, mate, you'd send a woman a message, and she would say that you're a misogynist and to report you to Facebook, and that would be that.
Probably get policed.
Back then, I was a misogynist, and I got away with it.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
the trouble. Never mind. But yes, all the time I get reminiscent for it. There's that cracking. I don't know what the fucking website address is, but do you remember that one that was like the GeoCities type website that somebody made that was all MIDI music and the spinning skull gifs and like all of that? It's so fucking good, man. All right, well, that's going to be a podcast. Thank you for your questions. Shall we do an outro?
I think we shouldn't.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
No, do an outro.
Okay,
No, do these social medias.
I'll do the medias of social.
Roll dice. Have full sexual intercourse. Play Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Do a butt sex.
What the fuck? fuck am I waiting for you?
Don't wait.
I don't need to wait.
You don't have to wait.
Just look up 3TRPG Pod in Google or something, and then it will like load everything we've done. We've put social spell. We've put a lot of new stuff out on the YouTube actually. So
We have.
we're going to be start using that a little bit more. Mostly Harrison.
Yeah, I've been. Our friend Ham Flanderson has been putting out a lot of videos recently. He does RPG reviews and that. So yeah, definitely subscribe to us on YouTube.
Yeah, and
They're very
then,
informative, very very short.
And then, as usual, you can look at us up on Patreon, and please be a patron of us because our money is fleeting.
We need money.
We need money. No, we do. It goes. It all goes.
No,
back.
we really do.
Yeah. It's
Give us
do.
some money, give us
And then check out Drive Through RPG. The old days of YouTube. And look up the old 3TRPGpod at gmail.com. Send us a message or go on a Discord and message us there because it's better.
That's
Even
it.
though I don't use it.
You should. They're
much
cool guys on there, man.
at all ever.
They're cool guys and some not cool guys.
What I'll do is I'll make a point of dedicating a few minutes every so often.
You might meet your special someone on there, James.
I've met you already.
That's good, man. That's a good one. All right. Well, I've been Harrison Hunt,
I've been James Clark.
and this has been And remember that D20s are cool, but 20Ds now that's a good time.